Venice is another world, an enchanted place where sea becomes land, cars are boats, streets are canals, and reality and fantasy blur. Walking alone on the back streets of Venice, something bewitches and takes hold of you. This is magical, mysterious Venice. The city's very existence defies reason. Built on mud flats and wooden stilts, it's a patchwork of land and sea. Yet this watery town became an empire, and for some 800 years grew in strength, wealth, and pride. From the 10th through the 17th centuries, Venice was the gateway to the East. Merchants from all over the known world met here. And Piazza San Marco was the grand entryway to the city. My daughter Sarah and I are off to explore this, the most famous piazza in all the world. Pigeons may just outnumber tourists in Piazza San Marco. Some say they descended from birds the Doge released every Palm Sunday. The bell tower, the Campanile, collapsed in 1902. The only casualty was the caretaker's cat. The new Campanile, completed in 1912, is true to the original. The lion is the symbol of Venice, and nothing better represents Venetian tenacity, glory, and pride. The gem of the piazza is the Basilica of San Marco. Unlike any other church in Italy, it looks as though it jumped straight from the pages of a fairy tale. Around the year 800, Venice was shopping for a patron saint. A couple of merchants stole the remains of Saint Mark from Alexandria. They hid the saint in a basket of pork to repulse the Muslim customs officers and to keep them from checking the contents. Saint Mark was a handy traveling companion. He woke the sleeping crew during a storm and saved them from destruction. Merchants returning from their travels always stopped at the Basilica to pay homage to their patron saint and to offer jewels or artwork that they picked up on their travels. The celebrated bronze horses, stolen from Constantinople, are one of Venice's most prized spoils. The horses outside are copies. The originals are on display in a small museum upstairs in the Basilica. When the interior of San Marco is illuminated, the mosaics sparkle. It's best to stop by the Basilica to find out the lighting schedule. After paying homage to San Marco, merchants loaded their wares into smaller boats and set off down the Grand Canal. To follow their route, take the Vaporetto down the Grand Canal.
Buongiorno. We have 1 3-day pass.
If you plan more than one trip, buy a 1, 3, or 7-day pass. Stamp it in the yellow machine to validate it. If San Marco is Venice's exotic reception room, the Grand Canal is a main street of the imagination. Lacy palaces line both sides of the canal, like set pieces for a fantasy. Those plundering, seafaring Venetian merchants traveled, traded, and amassed great fortunes. The palaces were their houses. That's why many have the prefix "ca," which is short for casa, the Italian word for house. The rich families were so competitive about displaying their wealth that sumptuary laws were passed to limit this competition. The state ordered all gondolas painted black, excessive finery in palaces was outlawed, and a limit was even placed on the length of trains of women's dresses. Ah, but the Venetians found a way. Women began wearing enormous platform clogs so they could lengthen their dresses. The shoes were so high, women couldn't walk without the help of two escorts to hold them up. Venetians were an odd mix of the democratic and the tyrannical. The wealthy families elected their doge, even put checks and balances on his power. At the same time, citizens regularly denounced each other to the secret police. The accuser slipped his complaint into one of the many lions' mouths around the city. Returning merchants stopped here. The Rialto Bridge is the center of Venice. It's the trading district, the very heart of town. In its heyday, the Rialto Bridge was a meeting place for merchants from all over the world. Just next to the bridge, on the west side of the river, the pesceria and the herberia, the fish and vegetable markets, have been going strong for 1,000 years. The alleys and quays are still named for the items traded here.
Mi basta quei cagati che dici così.
Signora, sorridete. Sì, lo giriamo. Messi in questa maniera.
The Rialto district still buzzes with foreigners, but today they are the tourists who descend in massive droves to shop. The commercial district between the Rialto and San Marco is called the Mercery. A visitor to this area in the 1600s described the cloth of gold, rich damasks, and other silks, perfumers, apothecaries, and innumerable cages of nightingales. Today, many of the shops are overpriced tourist traps. But the color, life, and energy of the market is still going strong. The area around San Marco and Rialto is fiercely touristed, especially around midday when tour boats drop off thousands of people for just a few hours of sightseeing. A few hours in Venice isn't enough to do the city justice. Spend the night, explore the back streets, get away from the crowds. There are many hotels here in every price range, from palaces to canal-side pensions, though reservations are a must. In off-season, you can have the truly magical experience of having Venice all to yourself. When I planned my trip to Venice, I abandoned all sumptuary laws and decided to live it up. Fairy Tale Venice has a fairy tale hotel. We're staying at one of the finest, most beautiful hotels in the world, the Cipriani.